Broadcasting rules mean we're not allowed to talk about the presidency on air today when huge issues actually have still are still around as the presidency comes to a close. So we're going to put out our presidential podcast this morning. Ivan, first point I want to know is on Friday when we're seeing turnout figures, what will that tell you about how the people have gone? Low turnout versus high turnout?
Well, first of all, I think the fact that it's on a Thursday is significant. That really debars a lot of students down the country voting. So I'm expecting the turnout to be much, much lower than the general election. And personally, it wouldn't surprise me if it didn't break 50%. There are referendums as well, which can only boost the turnover as people are strongly for or against. But in my view, you nearly always take it that in yesteryear, that a low turnout suits Fianna Fáil because they will get their hardcore out. Now their hardcore is melted. So it is unpredictable. I think the fact that so many Fine Gaelers in the poll, which are the largest party at 36% in the poll, are not really supporting their own party's candidate, maybe suggests that they'll stay at home. And that would really give Gallagher a chance. The other thing that we've had no breakdown is there actually an urban bias in favour of Michael D and a rural bias in favour of Gallagher? I think it is a two-horse race, and my sense of it is that people do not want a situation that they wake up on Saturday or in a week's time and there's more stories, that the campaign actually drags on. Now, that means that the winner could be Gallagher in terms of that, because he's the only one in which this controversy has run and run. I think it is unfortunate that the particular hiatus about this £5,000 cheque and the Fianna Fáil bagman allegations came up so late, because I don't know whether the last denial by Gallagher that he never went to Armagh, he never met Hugh Morgan there, is true or not. Because the issue is actually not about collecting money, the issue is about the truthfulness of Gallagher, because he kept changing his story. And I do feel a lot of the public, you know, and I just would just like to establish the truth. That's no more or no less.
Because the campaign ended on people contradicting each other. Sean Gallagher saying one thing, Hugh Morgan saying the other, and we don't know where the truth lies. What about Sean Gallagher, 15-point lead in the last poll that was published? Do you think a David Norris could happen to him? That as astronomical as his rise in the polls was, when we have the final numbers, the fall could be that astronomical? Or do you think it's too big a lead? Because the reason I'm asking this is the bookies are saying Michael D. Some of the front page newspapers are saying Michael D. But you're still seeing it as two horse.
Well, the thing that gives me cause for, disquiet is that right up to Thursday and Friday, stories about smart homes, company loans, directors' loans, misplaced invoices, wrong payments to wrong companies, was out there. The Fianna Fáil stuff was out there, bar this particular Hugh Morgan allegation. And actually his strength was going up in the polls, which seems to suggest to me that unlike clemency letters that were unknown, unlike issues of pederasty, unlike issues of, a homosexual lover involved in statutory rape, people regard those orders, those difficulties, as being of a different order of politics and money and the sort of grimy world of politics. So I think it is all to play for. While the bookies have always made Higgins favourite, like they made him odds-on favourite before the polls, and it was only the polls forced them into it. I'm wondering, is there a latent bias that almost the media invariably are voting on an individual basis for Michael D.
Okay.
And I just think you've got to discount that bias, that the Dublin 4 media probably want Michael D to win.
So is it the case President Michael D. Higgins will see you at the inauguration and the Christmas message, President Sean Gallagher will see you on the front pages of papers for weeks to come?
I actually don't think that will happen. I think whoever is elected president is just like Enda Kenny, just like everyone. The office makes the person. That the whole panoply of state moves behind who's ever elected, and I think actually whoever's elected, there'll be a fine president. I'd have no real worries on that score, because that's just the nature of the business. You move automatically to being a statesperson, and all the defence forces and the apparatus of state moves in behind you, and you actually won't see them in radio studios or anything like that again. Their world changes and
they become detached. Yeah. Just final thing, the other campaigns: McGuinness, Dana, Davis, Norris, who have I left out, and I can't remember who I've left out.
Well, it was always going to be the emergence of 6 losers. And the fact that the field was so crowded,
Mitchell,
it became like a by-election. That in fact, the best way for any candidate to get 40% of the vote, but to get 20% of the vote, because the impetus of the poll gave you a momentum. Look, it's going to come down to a two-horse race. Has your guy or girl got that traction? And therefore, that absolutely did for Mary Davis's campaign. It did for, if you're a supporter of the government, it did for Gay Mitchell's campaign. You drifted towards Michael D. Higgins. You drifted towards Gallagher and away from the other candidates. So, in my view, in fact, the biggest impact of this election has been polls.
Okay. As Ivan used to say to his supporters in Wexford, vote often and vote early. 7 till 10 o'clock tonight you can vote. Remember, ID and your polling card. If you go to the stations, if you didn't get your polling card, you can just bring your ID because you'll be on the register.